When you decide to source a fleece from a farm, you may already have a project in mind. You might know, the quality of the fleece, what you're going to do with it, the project, the pattern. You might have everything all set up and ready to go. The other possibility is that you're just enchanted with that particular farm or that particular ewe or that particular fleece that came off of that ewe. You just have a connection. You just want to have that fleece in your collection. So what I want to do today, for those of you in the second category, is I want to talk about 3 different fleece types that I've identified within the flock that exhibit certain qualities. I mean, they're all super fine, they're all very crimpy. But then there's other qualities with some of the fleeces that I've identified that are very distinguishing and can really generate some really nice and interesting yarns. And we'll get into that here now. I'm going to show you the fleeces and then some of the things that I've made with those types of fleeces.
I have completed skirting and evaluating all of our fleeces. Some of the wool is going to be going into comb top, and I'm really happy that I hit the minimum for Zeilingers for each color. So this will be going with me to the festival in Central New York in June. Zeilinger is going to meet me there. They have a booth. And then I'll pick it up at the Rhinebeck Festival in October. So that's when I'll have comb top back in the shop. Some of the fleeces I have set aside for myself to make into yarn or into bats that'll go into the shop. And this lovely tower of fleeces are what's going into my fleece auction on the 21st of May. That'll run for a week and conclude on the 28th. I ended up with 40 fleeces for the auction. 8 black, 7 fawn, 15 gray, 6 moret, and 4 white fleeces. All are ewe fleeces, and all except for one are coated, and they're all heavily skirted. I rooed 18 fleeces that'll go into the auction and sheared 22 fleeces, but they didn't have any or many second cuts, so I determined them to be acceptable for sale in the auction.
This year I'm offering one fleece from our flock that is not a superfine fleece. This fleece is from our ewe English Garden, and she's a gray cat mugget. She's actually one of the first fine fleece. We've our history with that. We started with really primitive double-coated Shetlands and then made a decision to convert our flock into the finer fleece. So she was one of our first attempts, and she was, good for us for what we were trying to do at the time with what we had. I'm gonna open this up. But now, she's older. She's quite senior. I want to say she's probably going to be, she is retired, so she must be over 10. And we microned her, and her fleece is up in the high 20s, so just not the super fine quality that you can come to expect from our sheep. Now, we didn't coat her either because I had intended to put her fleece in my comb top pool for the gray comb top. But the problem I have now is that all my skirtings and ram fleeces are so fine now that her wool would bring it down in terms of fineness. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to offer this in the auction, full disclosure. It'll be at a discounted rate from our typical pricing on fleeces, and just offer it. Be very clear with the cleanliness. She wasn't coated, so it's not as clean as our other fleeces. I will say she has a very dense fleece, so it's not too bad, but it's dirtier than our normal stuff. And also, she's very tall. So when the sheep are eating and they put their heads over top of each other, she's one of the taller ones, so she doesn't get as much VM in her back. It's a big departure for me because typically I'm only offering the super fine fleeces. But I would say it's probably similar to like a fine Romney, but probably not the staple length that you would get with a Romney. But it just feels like that to me. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's gray, light to dark. It's got a lot of color variation. Here's a nice dark patch right here. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I will be very clear in the listing about what this is about, what this fleece is gonna be like. So the first fleece type I'm gonna talk about is what I am tagging as short with a curly tip. And when I say tagging, what I mean is I'm going to be listing some fleeces that are going to have that characteristic. They're going to be a short staple length with a very well-defined curly tip. So I will tag that fleece so that it's going to be easy for you to search if you want that type of fleece or filter. So this is a portion of the fleece from RU Ophelia. I've already spun up some of her yarn using the short curly tip characteristic to make a very specific yarn. Okay, and just as, I mean, can't really get much more clear than that. It's a short staple, and it's got a really cute, curly, tightly coiled tip. The technique that I use is I spin right from the fleece, and I work to draft and separate only the base of the staple so that that's what gets caught in the twist, and try to make sure that maybe wherever the definition starts, that portion of the staple is left out of the twist. So what I'll do is I will just separate out a length of wool that's maybe got 2 or 3 staple, separate staples going this direction. And then, like I said, I will just start to draft, again, only the base of the lock. And then what I'll do is I'll find some other parts of that fleece that have ever so slightly better length, and they usually towards the back of the fleece. And I will take those and flick them and make them into a very, very fine single, almost like a lace weight. Then I will ply those two together and end up with this very fetching, I call it a bumbly yarn, used to make a bumbly hat. Very bulky, very inconsistent, does not have, a smooth appearance. It kind of looks like a hot mess on the skein. But when you knit it up, you get this adorable garment that has the little curly tips sort of sticking out, almost like a little fringe, little random bits of fringe. Very textured, lots of fun. And that is what I use those short curly tips for. These hats I'm making are so soft and squishy and warm. They're so nice. I just love them. So that's the first fleece type. I brewed Ophelia, actually. She brewed really easily. She is a great cat mugget. She's still in the flock. I didn't rue all of the short fleeces with a curly tip. So I'm thinking about Koki, for example. Koki's got that. I don't think I'm listing her fleece. I think I'm going to be processing hers because I sheared her and she didn't shear really well. So I just wanted to break that one out as a separate type. Now, in prior years, short fleeces with curly tips, I would normally just put right into comb top. But since I've come up with this technique, I think it's really fun, and I think that maybe somebody would enjoy it. And so I am going to offer it in the auction on May 21st when I get that all set up. So that's the first type. The next fleece type that I want to talk about is going to be tagged Rude Lamb Fleece. Now, this is a different type of fleece for a couple reasons. Number one is it's rude, and so it's perfect, right? There's no second cuts. The base is where the weak spot is, so you're not going to have a weak spot in the lock. And with my lamb fleeces, last year I coated my lambs in June because we had a drought and there wasn't enough pasture, so I started giving the sheep hay. And the lambs are so small at that time that they were going to get a ton of hay in their fleeces, so we coated them early. Benefit there is very minimal sun damage at the tips. So just really great fleeces. But the downside is that the lambs are not accustomed to standing in the grooming stand. That's where I rue them. And just a quick backup, rueing. So that's where there's a weak spot in the fleece, usually with primitive breeds. My flock, most of my ewes have this trait where you can pluck the fiber off of the ewe. You don't have to shear them. So that's what ruing means. So I do it when I put them up in my grooming stand when I do it. It's a safe way to do it for both the you and for me. They're immobilized, they're up at my waist, so it's it's just the best way to do it. The lambs they're not used to it. So they tend to put up a little bit of a fight. And what results then with the fleece is that the locks aren't as well defined because I'm just scrambling to get the fiber off of the lamb. My older girls stand there nice and calm. I can really take my time and do a really thorough job and make sure that the fleece is as tight as possible. Not so much with the lambs. So what I'm going to do, so the reason I would not take this and flick it is because the locks are kind of blurry. It's not easy to peel off the locks and flick them. And then my concern is if you try to do that, you're going to end up with a lot of really unnecessary waste, because there should be no waste with these rude lamb fleeces. You should be able to use the whole thing. So what I'm going to do, and I've done this once. I made a textured bat one time, put it in my shop, and it sold immediately. And that was with a rude lamb fleece that I was kind of getting frustrated with all the waste I was experiencing from flicking her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull locks and feed them into the drum carder and allow those tips to stay closed. So it's going to be like a neppy textured bat.
So here I am feeding the locks. This is my Magicraft Fusion drum carder. It's 128 TPI. The feed tray is elevated higher up onto the liquor end, which is really nice. So it gets more time on the liquor end to get separated. I turn that crank really slowly. This is not slow motion. You do not want to crank that really fast, otherwise you're going to get a lot of neps. And with rude fleeces, sometimes they clump together. So I take the time to open them up before I put them into the liquor in. So I'm feeding the fiber on different parts of the liquor in order to get even distribution for the bat so that it's covering the entire width of the drum. Every so often I'll come across a little bit of something, chaff or whatever, and I'll just pick that out with my knitting needle. Notice how I'm really good in the beginning, just putting small increments in, and then after a while I just put a whole bunch on there. But they're going on nice and even. The table that the drum carder is on is a little wobbly. That's why I put my hand on the frame there. You don't really need to do that. And now I'm engaging the burnishing brush. That comes standard with all the Fusion carders. And it's good to pack the fiber down into the tines so that the tines can activate to get more fiber on them. If the fiber is up at the tip of the tines, they're not going to pick up the fiber from the liquor in. So here's something I'm doing. I don't engage the burnishing brush all the time. And I think the reason I'm doing that is I'm trying something. What I'm finding is I have a little bit more nep right where the break is in the carding cloth that you use to remove the fiber, that groove there. I find that some of the neps build up there. So I'm not using the burnishing brush the entire time. And when I get to a fuller drum, I only use the brush on the carding cloth and I avoid it on that groove. I'm still kind of in experimenting phase. Because my fibers are so fine, they really nep up really quickly on a drum carder, so I'm trying to hone my technique. So all the fiber is loaded now, and I'm not sure if this is necessary, but I like to give it one last pack here at the end so that I have a nice smooth bat coming off the carder. So that's what I'm doing there. So now I'm going to take the fiber off the carder, and I use this tool that comes with it. It's called the doffing tool, and that's, you're just kind of nudging it along the groove. I don't lever it off the wood on the side of the drum there. That'll wreck it, so I try to keep it away from the wood flanges on each side of the drum. Then I bring back my knitting needle, which has got a permanent bend in it just because of all the bats that I've pulled off the drum carder with it. I do this just because I like to get as much fiber off the carder as possible. I'm going to make 1 ounce bats, and I'm going to spin a couple ounces. Hopefully I'll have that done by next week so I can show it to you. I'm just going to spin them in a semi-worsted 2-ply, and just really looking forward to that. This fleece is from Perdita. She's a gray catnugget, so there's a lot of color variety in this fleece. She actually, I did her in 2 separate phases because, again, like I said, they just don't like it. And the first half came out really nicely, so I'm actually going to offer that as a fleece. I think it's about 10 ounces raw. But this one I've washed already, and it's just luxurious. So I think I have about 4 fleeces that are like this, and in fact I still have 2 ewes that I have to get the second half off. They're still out on pasture with coats on. So I'll be working on that here quickly before the 21st so that I can offer those. And if they rue for me nicely, I'll list those as, just a rude fleece. But if not, I'm going to tag them as rude lamb, and that's how we're going to know it's a more open locked structure and maybe better suited for just putting on the carder carefully and slowly. The third fleece type that I have kind of characterized over the years is the one that this was always my go-to technique with my fleeces. And that is, flicking it or combing it by the lock and then spinning them by the lock. So these fleeces, I'm going to call them greater than 2 inches and dense. And by dense, I mean that, your lock structure is really good. It's easy, well-defined, easy to pick off locks to work with. This fleece comes from our ewe Gilly. She's a fawn catnugget. I had her sheared this year. Next year I'm going to rue her. I should have rued her this year. So she didn't shear really well. There's quite a lot of second cuts and little loose bits and stuff and weak spots. So I'm going to process this fleece myself. So characterizing this as greater than 2 inch staple length
and very dense. I'm going to flick this. And just either spin it into a 2-ply worsted weight or put it on the drum carder and make 1-ounce bats to offer to hand spinners or felters or whatever. So these will be tagged. The ones that I decide to sell will be tagged as 2-inch dense, and there'll be some rude fleeces in that grouping, and there'll be some shorn fleeces, and I think the bulk of the fleeces are going to be in that grouping, because that's, like I said, that's really more what we're breeding for, more my comfort zone.
Thanks for watching the video. I hope it gave you a little more insight into the fleeces that are going to be offered. The auction starts on May 21st. It's going to run through till May 28th. I'll have all this information in the notes on this video on YouTube with a link to the web page. This is just an assortment of the fleeces. No particular order or preference. And I haven't gone through and tagged them all yet, but this is a good assortment of all the different types. So enjoy. Adelina's little ewe, a fawn cat nugget. And as friendly as her mother is, that's how shy this little lamb is. She's a little bit older. I'm kind of behind on my pictures. Is that itchy? It's really hard to get pictures of a friendly ewe's baby because the ewe wants to come over and say hello. Don't you, honey? My lovely girl. You shy little baby. So Adelina is a yearling. This was her first baby. You're such a good girl. This is Ty's Moret ewe. This is her first lamb. stretch. That's going to be in here for the longest time. Little bit more pictures of your baby. And this is Carrie's super teeny weeny little ewe, just over 2 pounds, so really, really small. Watching her carefully. Mom's got a little bit, the start of mastitis. Well, that's good, she's peeing, that means she's eating. So we're monitoring her weight. She's doing fine though, she's just really little. So yeah, one of Mom's udders has got a little bit of tinge of pink to it. It almost looks like strawberry quick. So I'm emptying out the udder every night. And we're giving her an antibiotic. Who is that? It's Fanny. You're gonna be okay. You sure are. What's Mom got going on? So the one udder is nice and soft. That's probably the one the lamb's eating from. The other one also nice and soft. So that's good. So I'll strip it again tonight. Just to be sure. So this is Lucretia's little white ewe. I think she looks like a Disney princess with those eyes. And then this is her little brother, Great Cat Nugget Ram. I just got her Lucretia Brood, balance of her. They're just about ready to come out of the pen. These guys are maybe 3 days old, I think. Oh, you are adorable. This one's great. I'm really happy with this little ewe. Yeah, you. Making friends out there? So Ilara had twin lambs, a ram and a ewe. There's the ram coming at us right now, and the ewe is back over there. Ilara is Lucretia's mom, and so that cute little lambie with the black eyeliner is her granddaughter. I got the door up into their pen, so he's managed to peep just for a second. Just for a second. So I'm pretty happy with the white ewes this year. Okay, that's 3, 4. One from Brienne, one from Tobia, one from Alara, and one from Lucretia. This is a hairy lamb. Well, all the whites are going to be hairy. So this is ears, ewe and ram. This is a teeny pen, so we're kind of smashed in here. These are out of Sebastian. And the ewe's got a little bit of a halo, hairy little coat. Which I don't really get that. An ear we rude. And there must be a bird building a nest right over her head because she's got bird poop on her. That's all mean. I'll rue her today. Take a little nap over here in a little corner. And then we're gonna leave you alone now. These are Mrs. Hughes' sleepy babies. One in the front with the white spotted face is a gray cat mugget ewe. I want her to get up. And then the little moret there is a ram. So Mom's waking them up because I think she wants to feed them probably. All right, Mom. Time for breakfast. He's right by the window in this pen, so it's nice and breezy. You get some fresh air. What's that? So Mrs. Hughes, for whatever reason, wasn't bred last year. This year, it took, and she's usually pretty reliable for ewes. She's Matilda and Mabel's mom, and she's actually Ear's mom. It's gonna be one of my little peanuts. She's just bit my arm. Okay, I'm gonna go. Just give me one more. Good mom. These are Ophavia's rams. Just two rams, a black ram and a gray cat nugget behind her. Hello. Hello, little man. He's got a little bit of diarrhea going on, but I think it seems like it's drying up. Good morning, boys. You're so cute. And then this is the last lamb for 2022. It's Susan Bean. She had a little gray cat nugget ewe. Little spot on her head. So she's got the spots from her sire, Duncan. The lighting's really weird right now. She looks blue. Come here. Come on out in the sunshine so we can see you. Maybe not. So I'm going to roo Susan B today. This is my bottle lamb out of Lakshmi. I'm going to clean up her neck and stuff. It'll go really fast. It's really hot out today. But the wool doesn't bother sheep. It's a good insulator, so she's perfectly comfortable with a full mane. Where's your baby? Is here? You're one of my friendly girls, aren't you? Where is their baby? Oh, I see her. Hello. Did I just wake you up? So the last Jew has had her lamb here on the farm, and so now it's time for us to get acquainted. I've already got a few little ewe lambs that like to get scratched, and as always, I avoid giving the ram lambs physical affection just because there needs to be some distance as the ram grows. If he's more like a pet and not afraid of us, they have a higher tendency when the testosterone starts to flow to become aggressive. So we just, we don't give them a lot of physical attention when they're lambs. And I keep that water bucket next to me. I like to have water for them when they're playing. And it's nice for them to just be able to go over and have easy access to it at the correct height. Plus that it gets them to come over to me, and then I can give them that little breastbone scratching that they love so well. And yes, they are wagging their tails because they are showing their appreciation for my physical affection. Would you stop? So crazy. All the ewes that don't have lambs are outside eating right now, so I shut the barn doors and open the gates and give the lambs free access to the entire floor of the barn. And that's when the frolic begins. It's time to give the lambs their first time out on the pasture. And the first step is I lock up all the ewes that don't have lambs in this section of the barn. They've already been out for the entire morning. And so they get to take a break, sit inside, while the little lambs and their mothers have their first experience out on the pasture. It's interesting to watch how some lambs, they don't even get phased and they just make new friends and they play, and other lambs really have a hard time with it. Starting to settle down a little bit. Sif's found her lambs, so they're under control. And then it seems like in no time at all, it only takes them like 20 minutes. They pair off, they find their moms, the moms find their babies.
You're doing good, you're doing good.
And they just enjoy their time outside. With their moms. So we'll give them this playtime 2 or 3 more times. And then they'll get integrated with the rest of the ewes. So we'll still split them up at night, but during the day, very soon here in the routine, they're going to be intermingled with the ewes that haven't had lambs.